If you're reading Exodus and you find yourself thinking that there's a lot about law in this book of the Bible, you'd be right. In the Jewish tradition, Exodus is the theological foundation of the Bible, explaining both the law of the Jewish people and the accompanying traditions. Exodus, especially its second half, is more than just a list of rules, however. The focus on law actually helps illuminate this book's main themes. You've heard me use this word before, covenant, and God's covenant with the Israelites is the first theme I want to talk about. A covenant is an agreement in which both sides promise to fulfill certain obligations, and that's exactly the way things work in Exodus. The Mosaic covenant, which is outlined in Exodus chapters 19 through 24, emerges as God gives his laws to Moses on Mount Sinai. But there's a catch. God makes it clear that he'll only hold up his end of the bargain if the Israelites hold up theirs. In other words, he bestows his blessings only as the children of Israel demonstrate their obedience to Mosaic law. Their fidelity shows their commitment to God's covenant, and in return, God shows his faithfulness to them. He makes them a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. He makes them a light to the world so that every other nation will know that the Israelites worship the covenant-keeping God, Yahweh. So, the covenant is central to Exodus, but it's not the only theme that emerges out of its laws. The second is salvation. In the first part of Exodus, salvation is independent of law. God saves the children of Israel from the Egyptians because he hears their cry, and they are his people. He is the God of their fathers, the God of the patriarchs and matriarchs, and God's promises of land and offspring remain. God saves the Israelites from Pharaoh and continues to save them in the wilderness, providing food and water. Later, though, after Moses' trip up Mount Sinai to receive the Ten Commandments, God's salvation is linked much more closely to his laws. In the second half of Exodus, God saves the people from their faith in other gods by giving them laws that enable them to align themselves more closely with him and to experience the power of living a life defined by obedience to God. Most importantly, though, God gives his people instructions for building the tabernacle, the symbolic center of salvation for the community, and a place for God to dwell among them.